This is Bulleit's first bottled in bond bourbon. After sourcing for years, this marks the first release of a whiskey produced entirely at the Kentucky's own distillery. So Bulleit, which is owned by Diageo, has also entered the ring in the bottled in bond market with distillers like Jack Daniel's, Jim Beam, Buffalo Trace, Old Forester, Heaven Hill, and all the other big players. Now remember, since being founded in 1987, Bulleit has sourced this whiskey from other distillers for nearly its entire existence. So how did they do with their own first grain to glass experience? Come right back, find out. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C, and welcome back to the Mash and Drum. Like, subscribe, and help me keep climbing to 100,000 subscribers here in 2025. Appreciate the support, everyone, as always. So as I mentioned, Bulleit has been sourcing for nearly its entire existence, mainly from MGP and Four Roses, as far as we know. But in that time, the brand has also built two distilleries to make its own whiskey, one in Shelbyville, Kentucky in 2017, and another carbon-neutral distillery that went online in Lebanon, Kentucky in 2021. Now, from what I read, Diageo will be making some other products there at those distilleries, but Bulleit will still be the #1 priority. Now, unfortunately, Bulleit has seen its share of controversy when founder Tom Bulleit was forced out of the company after his daughter accused him of abuse. Then Diageo was hit with a discrimination lawsuit by former blender Ebony Major, which ended up being dismissed. Now, throughout all that controversy, Bulleit has continued to make whiskey for the bartenders and whiskey enthusiasts in mind, including a 10 and 12-year-old rye whiskey sourced from MGP, I believe, single barrel selections, and their American single malt, which unfortunately I thought was pretty terrible.
Show some damned respect.
Now, when it comes to their new bottled and bond bourbon, it was distilled in the spring of 2017 at the Bulleit Distilling Company in Shelbyville, the first year it was in operation, which makes this the first Bulleit release to be produced and matured entirely in-house. It utilizes their signature high rye mash bill and is aged 7 years under bottled and bond standards. This is bottled at 100 proof with an SRP of $55, and for now, this is a limited release, but we'll see as they get more and more their whiskey ages up if this ends up being a permanent release that's in distribution all year round. All right, let's give it a pour. Now, I remember being at the distillery, I think in 2021, 2022. We're there to do 11-year barrel picks at the time. That was the Four Roses stuff, which was always so interesting because when you went in there to pick a single barrel, you know, the way they marketed it or the way they introduced it to you, it's like, hey, we have this mash bill, you can use these yeast strains, and they just named them differently. So instead of being the V or the K or yeast strains like that, the way Four Roses did it, they would name it after flavor profiles. This is our strawberry. This is our baking spice. So it was a kind of interesting way that they did it, but it's good to see a distillery finally putting out their own stuff, even though Bulleit's been known so long for, you know, sourcing. So here we go. So I do get that high rye on the nose. It's very, very citrusy to me. I get orange, lemon, a little bit of tiny bit of a toffee note here. Your vanillas and caramels are here. It's definitely an uptick in what we normally get from Bulleit, I think. So let's give this one a try. Here we go. Oranges all day long. Oranges, oranges, oranges. It almost the finish is almost like a honey, ginger, lemon, orange tea type of thing. But man, that is orangey and very sweet. It's interesting because we think of Bulleit as a cocktail mixer, and I feel like this at 100 proof with this age on it and this flavor profile, this probably has the makings of being an incredible whiskey to use in an old fashioned or even a Manhattan if you like to do bourbon Manhattans rather than rye, just because of how heavy the orange is, at least on the first sip. So second sip, the orange takes a little bit more of a back seat. It's still there, it's still very prevalent, but I think the rye spice starts to kick in. I think a little bit more of the oak comes to the forefront. Remember, it is 7 years old. It does have a decent age on it. It's not overpowering you with oak, but I do think there's a little bit of an oak influence there. There's a nice spice from that high rye mash bill, which I also think is contributing to that orange citrus flavor that I'm picking up. God, even when I bring it to my nose, I could smell the orange. So when I first tried this, I thought it tasted like one of those, you guys know the Hostess cupcakes with the swirls on top? It's the sponge cake with the icing, and it's got the, I think there's like 8 or 9, or there's a very specific amount of swirls that they do on top of those Hostess cupcakes. Well, anyway, they have the orange ones, the all orange, the orange sponge cake, cream filling, and orange icing on top with those swirls. And the only person I ever knew that really liked those was actually my mom. Growing up, she would have those in the fridge sometimes. She liked to eat them cold. And I'm telling you, that is what this tastes like. It tastes like one of those orange creamsicle type of cupcakes from Hostess. God, and the more I sip this, the sweeter it's getting. It's like I just took a bite of that cupcake and I got to the cream filling. It's like if the cream filling had a little black pepper in it, a little bit of baking spice, maybe some cinnamon, some nutmeg in there. I feel like that's what you get in this Bulleit. This is good. This is a nice release from Bulleit. It's nice to see them come out with their own stuff finally. I remember, again, when I was there, not only picking the single barrel, they were telling us they were trying to, replicate, the source stuff that they were creating, because it was so, so ubiquitous everywhere you went. Every bar has Bulleit. So, all right, last sip here on this one. Yeah, like I said, it's heavy orange. I think depending on the sip you get, it's gonna come off a little bit sweeter to some folks. I do think there's some oak presence there, some black pepper, some baking spice on the back end with that high rye mash bill. But really, from the front to the back of the experience, you're gonna get some citrusy orange influence, one way or the other. It's there. I think it's to the forefront. I think there is a nice little balance here, and I think this whiskey is just right to use in a cocktail. I mean, I'm sure that, everything that Bulleit does, it's for the cocktail experience. So if you like your cocktails a little bit more proofy, I think this could actually be really good, again, especially with an old fashioned, if you like that orange flavor. So, all right, let's go to a quick final breakdown. All right, final breakdown on the new Bulleit Bottled in Bond Bourbon. Price for this one, $55. Resale market value, we won't see these on resale, so hopefully they stay at about $55. Availability for right now is gonna be limited. Now, when it comes to value is tough with Bottled in Bond because you still have really, really good Bottled in Bond values out there. I mean, you have your Evan Williams bonded, you have Benchmark bonded, but you also have bourbons like Heaven Hill, who has their Bottled in Bond 7-year. That's about $60. So at 55, I think it's just gonna depend upon the side of the fence you're on when it comes to Bottled in Bond bourbons. Now, typically those cheaper ones are normally about 4 years old. This being 7 years old, I think at 55, I don't know if I'd say it's an even value, but I'll just say it's below average. Most I pay for any Bulleit, it's gonna be retail. Now, as far as alternatives to this one, you have the ones that I mentioned earlier that are also Bottled in Bond experiences. However, with the heavy orange, if I'm just focusing on the flavor profile, for the price, something cheaper and that can give you some of those citrus notes, I think Wild Turkey 101 is gonna be your best alternative, because not only is it cheaper than this, but I also do think it brings some of those citrus flavors to the forefront. And another alternative I really like, even though it's around the same price as this one, is the Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond. That is a bourbon that has seemingly gotten better each and every year since its release. It's one of my regular go-tos now, so I think that one, and also Wild Turkey 101, depending on what you want to pay, are great alternatives to the Bulleit if you can't find it. And lastly, is it a skip, a try before you buy, or a buy and back it up? I think for me, it's a try before you buy. It's not exactly blowing me away, but I do think it's one of the better Bulleit products that I've tasted in quite a while. However, if you're a cocktail nut, if you love cocktails, Manhattans, old fashions, whatever it may be, I think this could be an absolutely incredible cocktail base for pretty much any cocktail as far as a bourbon, any bourbon-based cocktail, even some rye cocktails, because it does have a spice driven finish on it. I do think this could do really well. So if you're just looking to drink something straight, there's probably other stuff that you might find more interesting than this, which is why I say try before you buy. But if you're really into cocktails, this could be a new go-to cocktail whiskey. But again, we have to see how the distribution goes for this one down the line, because right now it is limited. But Bulleit is big enough, Diageo's pretty big, and we'll see how it goes down the line if this becomes a rotation on the shelf from here on out. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video for the new Bulleit Bottled and Bond. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this one. I know there are still people that are pretty, I guess, upset with Bulleit and Diageo for some of the past things that I mentioned earlier in the video. Let me know down in the comments if you're still not buying any other Bulleit, or if there's a part of you that's really interested in this, and especially for all you cocktail folks out there that think this could be one of your new rotation additions into your cocktail bar. So let me know down in the comments, and as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers. I'll see you next time right here on the Mash and Drum. Cheers, folks.